So this year has come to an end. I don't fully understand who made it as difficult as possible and why they did it, but hopefully this person will come to their sense and slow down in 2025. Hi to everyone who's preparing turkey and pumpkin pie, to everyone who's watching this on New Year's night, and also to those who randomly opened this video in summer. Enjoy and watch it until the end to learn a lot of new things about New Year and Christmas. Get comfortable and let's roll. It's no surprise to anyone that alcohol consumption and sales skyrocket during the holidays. Even those who don't usually drink will drink on a special day. If you are such a person, I have a free piece of advice for you. Don't drink when it's cold. You're welcome. Now you owe me a subscription and a thumbs up. Now, here is an exciting story about alcohol and a dog. Do you know the breed of dog called Saint Bernard? If you Google photo of these incredible dogs, sooner or later you'll see pictures of them wearing small barrels around their necks. These dogs were used a lot in rescue missions in the Alps. They helped find missing people. Since these dogs would often find people themselves, they wore barrels of alcohol around their necks, which were consumed by people to warm up while waiting for rescue team. This is the picture where this whole thing started. It was the idea of the artist who, as a matter of fact, was only 18 at the time. Well, I wish I could draw like him. His name is Edwin Landseer, and he just made up this story about dogs wearing brandy. Cool, this myth was enthusiastically embraced by popular culture. First, other painters adopted this idea. Then, there were stories told by eyewitnesses, and now there are Tom and Jerry and Pluto. All these cartoons clearly show what's inside the barrel and how its contents help warm up those who are cold. Everyone around is promoting this nonsense. In reality though, no one ever made these dogs wear such barrels, but by that point, it was too late to stop the myth from spreading. The most famous Saint Bernard dog was Barry, who, by the way, saved 40 people. Now there is an exhibition of this dog at University of Bern. And guess what it wears around its neck? Correct. They display a real myth. The historical accuracy of this museum must be 12 out of 10. Why are there still pictures like that? Because they sell. Souvenirs and photo with rescue dogs. Anything you want. Why can't it be true? Alcohol really warms you up, doesn't it? No. It only seems like you're warming up. Alcohol makes your blood vessels enlarge, and more blood flows in, makes you feel warm. This sensation led people to believe that alcohol warms you up, but in actuality, that's quite the opposite. Body temperature drops quickly, which is why it's very dangerous to drink out in the cold. You won't notice when you get too cold. Now imagine if Saint Bernard really wore barrels of alcohol around their necks, a unit of killer dogs. Besides being extremely interesting, this edition will also be very helpful. Here's a good piece of advice for you in case you don't want to feel terrible on New Year's. If you decide to drink in the cold weather and fall asleep in a snowdrift, keep a trusted sober friend nearby who will come to your aid if needed. Speaking of snowdrifts, I'd like to dedicate the next part to snow. Probably snow is the only reason someone might look forward to winter. When I was a kid, I used to eat snow when coming home from school. Why are you looking at me like that? Many people do that. Children love doing it. What's the big deal anyway? It's just water. What harm could it do to me? Research shows that snow absorbs air pollution. Snow absorbs so much rubbish, it only seems white. Whereas in reality, each snowflake is like a little trash bin. Yeah, not a very pleasant fact. But what if snow tasted like watermelon? Would you eat it? No, I'm serious. What if you are climbing a high mountain and saw pink snow that tastes and smells like watermelon? The thing is, you can really encounter pink snow in some mountain ranges. According to some brave food tasters who aren't afraid of anything, it really does taste like watermelon. This happens because of a special kind of snow algae called Chlamydomonas nivalis. Here it is, and it's green. But why is the snow pink then? They are green when inactive. However, when they need to survive extreme conditions, they cover themselves with a protective pigment in the zygote, which shields them from ultraviolet radiation and turns them pink, red, or orange. If I saw that, I'd think there was a penguin battle going on. But there are other kinds of algae that dye snow green and even gray. This phenomenon is called snow blooming. There is also yellow snow, but algae probably aren't to blame here. However, this phenomenon has a side effect. The color of the snow darkens, which means it heats up quicker and starts melting, raising the sea level. Why is everyone concerned about global warming when algae are trying to kill us? Let me ask you this, what do algae and polar bear have in common? By the way, I'm not sure we should call them white polar bears. Actually, they're black. Yes, their skin is black. Their fur isn't white either. It's colorless. It doesn't have pigments and their fur is hollow inside, unlike our hair. Any light that hits their fur scatters, and polar bears appear white, yellow, gray, or even orange. It all depends on the lighting. Bears can even be green, and you probably guessed why. Because bears in captivity, living in zoos, sometimes have algae growing up in their hollow hairs. This looks stylish. On the outside, they seem white, but on the inside they're black. I think I get it now. This bear is Eminem. Winter isn't my favorite season, but when the weather is nice and snowing lightly, with white and fluffy snowdrifts outside, then why not? There is something charming and Christmas-like about it. It's a shame though that streets now look more like mud baths. As luck would have it, right before holiday someone cancelled snow. The funniest part is that the residents of the snowiest city in America once tried to cancel snow. Syracuse City holds the record of the highest annual snowfall among US. Take a look at what happened in 1966. There was a big snowstorm and the city set a snowfall record.
The blizzard of '66 is to date the most famous blizzard to hit the Syracuse area.
On behalf of the snow-weary citizens of the city of Syracuse, any further snow is expressly outlawed in the city. Can you imagine the look on Snow's face? It was outraged by such impudence, and the very next day it snowed even more heavily. Of course, this law was a joke, but it probably helped people cope with uncontrollable situation emotionally. Or you can try to accept the inevitable and enjoy it. For example, you could have a snowball fight. It's unlikely to change anything, but at least it's funny. I'm really in the Christmas spirit now. I want to give everyone their gifts as soon as possible. Have you bought your gifts yet? Raise your hand if you bought such common gifts as socks, picture frames, razors, perfumes. Tell me, do you have the Christmas spirit? Even if you're watching this in summer. Because I know one saying, you celebrate the New Year as long as you have a Christmas tree at home. Because it's the Christmas tree that gives the vibes and everyone understands it. However, both real and artificial ones are pretty pricey. Few people want to pay so much for something used only once a year. This is why poachers who go to parks with saws cut down Christmas tree and probably think to themselves that everyone else is a loser. However, he who laughs last doesn't do an extremely smelly house. What nonsense am I saying? Some universities, parks and reserves have been using such joker's traps for many years. They spray Christmas tree with fox urine that smells really bad. Recently, they've been mixing it with skunk essence. You may not notice the hardcore smell outside in the cold, but when you bring such a tree home, I really don't advise you doing that. This method really worked. The number of illegally cut trees dropped. Of course, no one wants to get a nasty smell under their Christmas tree instead of gifts. But since you saved $100, you could celebrate New Year's wearing gas masks. I would like to share an insanely cool fact about New Year traditions. Each country has its own. For instance, big trees decorated with toys are installed in the city centers. Huge hay goats are installed in the city of Gavel. Check out how beautiful this is. Why a goat? Because it's Scandinavian symbol of Christmas. Everyone has their peculiarities. On December 1st, 1966, it was installed for the first time, but unfortunately, it didn't survive until New Year's Eve. Some vandals burned it down. The goat burned quickly because its frame was made of wood planks and it was coated with hay. It was a bad start for the tradition, but as they say, different things happen. This tradition of installing the symbol continued year after year, but quite often, strange things would happen to it. Someone would always try to break it down. Some did it intentionally, while others unintentionally. For instance, once it was knocked down by a drunk driver. Once it was even stolen by someone, but mostly someone always tried to burn it. It seems like this tradition isn't so much about the goat, but rather by how to destroy it. To understand better, in 36 out of 56 years of this tradition's existence, someone tried to either burn it or break it down. Even last year it was burned. This happens even though authorities try to solve the problem by putting fences around it and installing security guards and setting up surveillance cameras. This year it's still standing, at least for now. At some point, people got used to the fact that something always happens to the goat, and they just try to predict whether or not it will last until Christmas, making bets and begging to set it on fire in online comments. Hopefully, security guards won't decide to hide in the goat and wait for vandals there. It's a Trojan goat that burns. Are you ready for the new year? Have you bought the necessary drinks yet? If you think you'll be swimming in a sea of alcohol and having fun until you die, forget about that. You'll never outdo the London beer float which happened on October 17, 1814, because people were literally doing those things. An emergency occurred in the storeroom of the beer factory, and at least 500,000 liters of beer were released. Believe me, it seems nice at first, but in reality, no one would really want this to happen. And trust me, you wouldn't want this either. A 4-meter wave of beer destroyed a couple of buildings and killed 8 people, 4 of whom were children. The moral of the story is, alcohol kills. Look, we're used to celebrate winter holidays sitting at a table with our family and friends, eating and not really thinking about how people around us have offended us. But have you ever wanted to punch a family member or a friend during the celebration? Some people, though, really like doing that. In one of Peru's provinces, locals come together and celebrate the New Year's in a rather peculiar way. They beat each other up. This event is celebrated on December 25 at the Takanakuy festival, and I didn't swear just now. It starts with a typical drunk party, almost like any other festival, but later a flight club begins to emerge. Women, men, the elderly, and even children can participate. They really beat each other up like in a street fight. In reality, such fistfights have a deep meaning. This ancient tradition helped locals resolve conflicts they've accumulated throughout the year. You can invite anyone in the fight with you, a friend, relative, anyone you've been mad at all year. However, I haven't found any footage of men fighting women, which is why there are probably some rules and principles. I won't show you the fights, instead check the description for a link to a documentary about the festival. At the end of the battle, it's customary to give your opponent a hug as a sign of reconciliation. After all rounds, participants start dancing and drinking wildly. The goal of the festival is innocent, to reconcile and strengthen a relationship. This is definitely a peculiar way of doing that, but it's all about culture and traditions. Fortunately, there are less violent traditions as well. For instance, the ones related to Santa Claus. In 1955, there was a crazy Christmas story that linked military officers and misinformation. There is an organization called NORAD Santa, and I'm wondering how to tell you about this. NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command, started helping Santa Claus deliver gifts so that no one could get near him while he flew by. Everything began in 1955, but you can Google this and track Santa in real time to see where he's moving during Christmas. You can also learn about it on the phone, and volunteers will tell you the exact location. Funny, isn't it? But how are military officers involved? Here's how the story goes. On Christmas Eve, a shop in Colorado Springs published an advertisement to the newspaper, inviting children to call Santa Claus. However, there was a mistake in the phone number, and instead, the Air Defense Command started receiving calls. When military officer Harry Shoup picked up the phone and listened up to the first child who called, he didn't hang up. Instead, he began coming up with the coordinates of Santa location. Soon, he reported them to his colleagues. From then on, everyone started receiving calls and tracking Santa for kids. Ever since, military officers have been receiving calls from children every year, and this tradition became known as NORAD Track Santa. This beautiful story touches the heart. It's a pity it's not true. It's a lie, even though officials have been telling it. Once again, only my favorite newspaper archives can help. We found an article published on December 1st, not Christmas Eve, which says that on November 30, a child dialed the wrong number by reversing the digits of telephone number and wanted to inquire about Santa. Of course, this telephone line wasn't protected, and of course there was only one child. This story could have gone unnoticed, but on Christmas Eve, military officers recalled this story and thought it would be cool to tell people about it. That's why, a month later, an ad was published in the newspaper saying they track and protect Santa. But what if we send Santa a letter just like that? You did that as a kid, didn't you? Your letter, however, was never answered, but on New Year's Eve, your desired gift was waiting for you under the Christmas tree. In other words, Santa didn't feel too lazy to come to you, but he didn't have time to reply to your letter. In Canada, in order for kids not to get upset, the Canadian Postal Service assigned Santa Claus his own postal code. This is not a myth. His postal code really exists and complies with the Canadian standards. When the letter reaches his address, a special department of the postal services replies. That's why kids can always read what Santa wishes for them personally. Of course Santa is real. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wanted to celebrate New Year 2 days in a row? You can make it happen. You just need to travel to the Krusenstern and Ratmanov Islands, or as they are also known, the Diomede Islands. The larger one belongs to Russia, and the smaller one belongs to the USA. Besides the territorial border between the islands, there is also international date line running between them. The islands are only 4 kilometers apart, but the time difference between them is 21 hours. First, you can celebrate the holiday on the larger island and then go celebrate on the smaller island. Not only will you be able to celebrate New Year twice, but you'll also be able to visit two countries in a short time. Actually, you could swim there rather than walk, as some daredevils have done it. But beware of crossing the border illegally. It's romantic to peer into the future when looking at the larger island. By the way, isn't it evidence of time travel? Please tell me, what are you going to eat during the holiday? I'm going to make a big deal out of this and just order some fast food for everyone. No, I'm not silly. In contrast to you, I follow Japanese traditions. In the 1970s, KFC entered the Japanese market. One of the managers overheard how foreigners were missing turkey and decided to start an ad campaign. He was going to substitute turkey with something else and sell special Christmas chicken sets around the time Christmas is celebrated. And it worked. Even Japanese began buying these sets during Christmas time. Even though it's not a national holiday in Japan, and everyone liked it so much that in 1974 it became a nationwide tradition: Christmas Kentucky chicken. So many years later, in order to follow the tradition, you need to order a meal well in advance or wait in line at a restaurant for hours. After all, they are the Japanese. Facts about them can be described like this. Don't try doing this in our territory and bring fast food for New Year's Eve. Most likely you'll be beaten up. Because on New Year's Eve, every person with dignity should have such a starter pack: mandarin, oranges, a plate of roast turkey, sparkles, a plate of prime rib roast, a drunk friend, and of course a pumpkin pie. With such food table, everyone will be happy. But I'm glad you know nothing about the song everyone has heard, Jingle Bells. By the way, it's directly linked to aliens. In 1965, NASA launched spacecraft as part of Gemini program. Two astronauts, Thomas Stafford and Walter Schirra, were aboard of one of spacecraft named Gemini 6. At one point, they reported seeing an object moving along a trajectory from north to south.
We have an object, looks like a satellite, going from north to south.
The operator on Earth began to tense up, but one of the pilots said he needed to take something out. And began playing the Jingle Bells song, using a harmonica. Yes, they made it seem like they saw an unknown flying Santa Claus and decided to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It was a prank, which turned out to be a massive one. And Jingle Bells is officially the first song sung in space. They really came up with such an idea. They secretly brought the instrument, rehearsed the song, had a laugh, and I was also surprised, but it turns out they were secretly bringing different things with them to space. How they managed to do that, it's unclear. I would say in the end, they pranked the entire planet. Wouldn't it be cool if the communication had suddenly interrupted as they were speaking about aliens? So as we dive into the holiday season, let's remember that not all traditions are as predictable as a quiet dinner with family or a cozy evening by the fire. From Peru to tracking Santa across the globe, the world is full of surprising and sometimes downright bizarre ways of celebrating. But no matter where you are or how you celebrate, what truly matters is the spirit of togetherness, joy, and a little bit of fun that comes along with this time of year. So go ahead, enjoy those traditions, try something new, and maybe even prank a few friends like those astronauts did in space. After all, the holidays are a time to get loose and make unforgettable memories. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year! And remember, there is always something new to learn. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.